What's going on, everyone? So the Sacramento Kings are still active in their pursuit for a Jonathan Kuminga. They do not want to trade Keon Ellis. They do not want to trade Keegan Murray in those trades. The Golden State Warriors are not interested in Malik Monk, are not interested in DeMar DeRozan in those trades. So right now, the Sacramento Kings are trying to move off of a Devin Carter and a Dario Saric in that type of deal. Talked about, broken that down on several occasions. But regardless, whether they end up with Kuminga or not, they want to get off of Devin Carter and potentially Malik Monk. Talked about Malik Monk in a video, kind of breaking it down, if it makes sense or, not. Right? There's some pros and cons, so go check out that video after this video. But Devin Carter, right? I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on Devin Carter as that kind of point of attack, versatile defensive guard. Now, the problem is he's not really a 3-and-D guard. He's not a great three-point shooter as far as, that goes. But as far as the defensive side of the ball and as far as him being aggressive and being that kind of relentless defensive player, that he is. And so he could really kind of help the Lakers in a type of move to where I don't look at Devin Carter as like, oh, this is the piece no, I look at it more of like, hey, this is a 23-year-old who's making $5 million that we can create and do a consolidation trade for to free up roster spots, to free up cap space in order to sign and bring in other guys. There's a lot of guys still rumored to potentially be buyout candidates. Nikola Vucevic, Chris Middleton, CJ McCollum, right? You have Jeremy Grant, who could potentially be an option, right? And as we get closer to training camp, you're going to get more and more of these guys. Teams are going to start trying to shed guys, trying to kind of move guys and figure things out. So it would be in the Lakers' best interest to kind of pull off this sort of consolidation trade if you can, and bring in a guy in a Devin Carter who, again, can be that defensive kind of menace out there at the guard position. Just kind of gives you another body throw at the guard position. But he's also young enough to be this kind of development guy, be this kind of growth guy. But really, to me, I look at it more as just you're clearing salary, right? So maybe you're doing like a Maxi Kleba and I don't know if I do Dalton Connect, but if you're clearing salary, usually you have to give up something. So if you're doing like a Maxi Kleba and a Dalton Connect for a Devin Carter type thing, because look, the Sacramento Kings are going to have to clear salary regardless if they go and pull off a move. Also, if they land a Maxi Kleba, you might be able to help them maybe land Jonathan Kuminga. Maybe it could even be some kind of 3-team trade if they don't want a Devin Carter. So maybe it's something where, Lakers are getting Devin Carter, freeing up some cap space, but Maxi Kleba is now going along with Dario Saric to a team. Plus, they'd have to give up assets and stuff to now go land Jonathan Kuminga. So they're getting Jonathan Kuminga, maybe a Dalton Connect, and then we're landing a Devin Carter, but clearing, almost 10, 11 million off the books, plus a roster spot. Now you have the salary to make the moves and decisions that you need to make. You got a guy in Devin Carter that at worst is, a $5 million salary that you can add into a various trade. At best, again, he could be that defensive kind of point of attack, versatile guard. It's not like, again, I'd prefer to go and make other moves and do other things, but the Lakers are still very active in trying to find that kind of consolidation trade. And like I've talked about, I don't want to see the Lakers just go and make a move and just clear off salary just to do that. I want you to at least get something in return to which you still maintain some flexibility. You bring in some guys, but you bring in a player or a piece. Ideally, somebody that could be, maybe a little more impactful out the gate. Like I've talked about, like with an Andrew Wiggins trade. Maybe you're doing an Andrew Wiggins trade, clearing off the salary, right? Now you got that starting level wing, but even something like a Devin Carter, again, at least you're bringing in a defensive kind of piece that can, run an offense, make some plays. He's not like somebody that I'd want, just wheeling and dealing out there, but he's a guy that can initiate the offense, be that point of attack, be that defensive piece, defend basically either guard position. He's not really big enough to defend the three regularly. Right? He's a guy that can, at times, depending on who it is, do something in that regards. He does have a higher wingspan. He's got a 6'8.5" wingspan, but he's only like 6'3". It's just his wingspan is very long, which makes him a really good defender. So I look at him kind of more of like like a smaller Matisse Thybulle. right? Like where he's a guy that's defending the 1 or the 2 and kind of swarming them with that long wingspan. Where, once you get to the 3 range, him being 6'3", yes, he has that 6'8" and some change wingspan. It'll help, but it's not something that like I think you'll be able to smother teams with, right? Where Marcus Smart, he's bigger, stronger, he's got that longer wingspan. It's like an inch or 2 longer, but still it's longer wingspan, so he can kind of do that, and he's better and more proven at defending big. But I also think a Devin Carter could learn a lot from a guy like a Marcus Smart. Kind of have Devin Carter and Bronny James as those 2 kind of athletic point of attack, just that next wave. Like you look at a team like OKC, they have so many of those guys. They're just sending waves at teams, wearing you down over the course of a 7-game series, right? Devin Carter, Bronny James, guys like that, I think could provide that for you over the course of a season. Now, if you were to bring in a guy like Devin Carter, you definitely got to move off of a Gabe Vincent, but he's cheap enough to where you can go make that move, bring a guy in, clear some salary like I mentioned, and then you'd still have Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, so you have almost $30 million in salary plus your first round pick to where you could still go pull off a trade for, an Andrew Wiggins, right? So you could do something where you could go make the Devin Carter trade, for, say, Dalton Connect and a Maxi Kleba. And then again, if that 3-team thing happens, then that 3-team thing happens. But you're clearing off salary. You're bringing in a Devin Carter, right? Now you've freed up a roster spot. You've also cleared, like I mentioned, almost $10 million off your books. And then you can go to a team like the Miami Heat and then do Rui and Gabe Vincent for a Andrew Wiggins, throw in your first at that point. Now you freed up another roster spot. So now you have 2 open roster spots. Well, technically 3 with the 15th man, but I think they'll leave that one open. But you also now have the salary in order to sign, say a Nikola Vucevic and a, Chris Middleton if they get bought out. Let's just use those names as an example. Now you can bring in those 2 guys, still have that open roster spot, and you still have the money to keep that spot. So that way, as you progress into the season, if somebody gets bought out that makes sense, you can go, especially being under the first apron, right? You could sign anybody. So if anyone gets bought out, you can now bring them on, slot them in onto the roster, and now you're good to go, right? So to me, I look at it as like you could potentially use the Devin Carter trade as the first domino to fall to now open up all these other possibilities for you and just give you that flexibility because they want to move off of Devin Carter so that way they can bring in Russell Westbrook and then maybe even bring in Jonathan Kuminga. So to a team like Sacramento, if they go and trade for Jonathan Kuminga, they have to clear salary regardless, which is why there's a lot of talks about them buying out DeMar DeRozan or trading DeMar DeRozan to Miami for Terry Rozier and then buying out Terry Rozier. So regardless, if they land somebody like a Jonathan Kuminga, they would have to get under the cap threshold regardless. So for those that are like, well, why would they want to take on more salary and be above there? Because they would have to no matter what. That's why I think it makes more sense if Kleba's going to the Warriors, right, type thing. So it's like, okay, well, Sacramento's going to have to clear cap space regardless, and now it washes out easier, and then they just buy out DeMar DeRozan or trade him and then buy out who they bring back, and then everyone's happy. It's a win-win for everybody. So Lakers could kind of be the middleman to help them make it work. So that's kind of the party where all teams can win. And now the Lakers kind of have that first domino that opens up all these other things. Because, trading for Devin Carter straight up, right? You could do a Dalton Connect for Devin Carter and just kind of swap it, but I just don't think you're maximizing your value. Yes, you could argue Devin Carter might be a bigger kind of fit and need just because of his defense, and that's something that the Lakers really need. But I'd rather keep Dalton Connect than trade him for Devin Carter. I just don't think that it's a good allocation of your assets, right? But if they can kind of work something like that out, then I'd be open to that. Or you're adding Devin Carter in a deal. Ideally, if you could get Keon Ellis and a Devin Carter, I'd trade basically whatever. Keon Ellis is exactly what this team needs. And he's bigger, more versatile, right? But ideally, I don't think that they'll be willing to trade Keon Ellis. Maybe if you kind of give them an excellent package potentially, and if it helps them land Jonathan Kuminga. So if it's something where they land Kuminga plus they get like a connect and a first and all this other stuff, and you could justify it as Lakers because you're bringing in 2 defensive versatile guards, right? Get off of Gabe Vincent and stuff. So maybe you could pull something like that off. But again, probably a bit of a stretch. Now, you could add Devin Carter to the Malik Monk trade and still kind of do the same thing, right? Add Devin Carter, Malik Monk. Now you're at like 23, 24 million. And then, you're sending that out. Maybe you're sending out like 27, 28 million. And then that way you can kind of, because again, they need to clear off salary regardless. Keep Rui, maybe send out, all the other things. You could do a Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleba, and a Dalton Connect for those two, bring those two in, right? Open up a raw spot, free up the cap space because you clear about 3 and some change off your books, free up the cap space to where now you can bring in, a Nikola Vucevic or something like that. Now you got Malik Monk for the bench scoring and a guy that could just go get buckets. Devin Carter as another just versatile point of attack defensive piece for you. I think it's something that could be a win-win on either side. Again, like I said, the problem with Devin Carter is just his lack of three-point shooting. Now, last year was his rookie year, so to be fair, right, he has time to kind of grow and progress, right? It's kind of hard to judge somebody on just their rookie season, but he was 29.5%, but on 1.7 attempts. So it's a small sample size, but he is a guy, like I said, that it'd look at for defensive purposes. Anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.